As we move toward a new year, we thank you for the privilege of serving our city and ask for your wisdom and guidance as we embark upon new challenges. We thank you for the blessings of political freedom passed on by our forefathers. We thank you for being at our side of our troops, fighting to keep us safe and bringing freedom to others. Keep our staff safe during their travels at this most joyous holiday time. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. We have 5 members of our council here this evening. Councilmember Souza remains ill. He will not be here this evening. And Councilmember Osborne is busy on her business, and she will be here if she can. So could I have a motion to excuse council members Osborne and Souza?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Lord and a second from Councilmember Pizzillo. All those in favor signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0. We have no expenditures to approve or ratify. No communications.
I have one speaker card
Is that for
for a non-agenda.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right.
No communications
No
either.
communications. We'll now get to the non-agenda items. And anyone who would like to speak on a subject which is not on this evening's agenda, this is the opportunity to do that. Would anyone like to speak on a non-agenda item?
Mayor, I have one person, Damian Ross.
Thank you. My name is Damian Ross, and I live in the North Subdivision. Had some problems in our area, ongoing problems. Councilmember Cavalier comes to our meetings a lot in our subdivision with graffiti. Last Wednesday, I noticed graffiti on my back alley wall. And so I called the police so they could take a picture and get it to their gang unit so they could trace it. Now, this was very artful. It said West Side. It had the number 13 embedded within the letters. I mean, the kid, whoever did it, was quite good with the paint. I called the police to kind of help them, and they've been a great help to me in that area. I mean, the officers, Tellez and others have served great. But on Friday, I received a letter from the code violation department within the city that was almost like victimizing the victim, telling me that I had 48 hours to remove the graffiti or I would be cited and et cetera, et cetera. This is counterproductive. I won't call the police anymore if I'm going to get letters like this, and I don't think anybody else is. In my alley, there are 7 walls, including mine, that have graffiti. I'm the only one that received a letter from people that I talked to because I called in and reported myself, essentially. Now, at the very end near the park in our area, on the sidewalk, there's graffiti that the city came to remove. They basically etched it in with a sandblaster, so it's actually more prominent now than it was. These kind of problems in our areas are growing, especially in the North Subdivision. It's getting run down. We have a co-compliance lady that comes by, and she refuses to help unless we report something. And that's been a problem with weeds being 3-4 feet tall. We had an abandoned house that had broken windows. I had to call Gail and get her out there, and she took care of the problem that day, where the other people come by and say there's no problem. Had a recycling truck come by and spill garbage all through my front yard and everything, and the same lady drove by looking at it, and I had to jump out in the street to stop her to say, you know, there's something wrong here. You know, am I going to get ticketed for garbage? So my problem really is with co-compliance for how I think that things are being handled. Is that my 3 minutes?
No, you have a few more.
A few more. You know, I've had tires slash in the cars and things in my area, so the area is getting worse. And only working with the police are we going to be able to restore what we had in that area. And I wanted to bring that up to the council, just so that you know there seems to be a problem or a disconnect between the city, and I wish the city manager was still here, between the city and the citizens. Because I want to work with the police, and I like to stop these little juvenile delinquents from doing what they're doing. And the police are really good to come and help. But when you start getting letters in the mail that kind of are threatening for reporting yourself, trying to do the right thing, that's going to stop other people from reporting. And that's really all I have to say, is that maybe there's a way of sending out, basically a thank you for reporting and working with the police or something, which would, you get more with sugar than you do with vinegar. Thank you, Mayor.
No, thank you very much for informing us of this, and definitely needs to be investigated. Our city manager is here. Would you want to respond now, or do you want to take it and report later?
We will certainly check into it and get back to both yourself and the city council and let you know what's going on.
Can we request that we get back in December rather than January?
we ask them
Because
to-
the city
what?
manager- city manager,
Yeah.
staff get back to me.
Yeah, why don't, the city manager won't be here, but the deputy will. Why don't we get a response to this gentleman before Christmas, if possible?
Yeah.
And
We
then-
will.
And then we'll brief the council at the next meeting,
We
which you
certainly
will
will.
be at.
Yes,
Is that all right?
that's fine.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Okay, thank you. We'll move to consent agenda, and I'll ask the city clerk to read consent items A through G by title only.
Item A, reappoint Commissioners Sean Locks, Sherry Loretano, Robert Williams, and Leslie Miller to the Planning and Zoning Commission for 3-year terms expiring on January 31st, 2013, or until their successors are appointed and qualified. Item B, authorize the city manager to renew the lease agreement and execute all related documents with Tri-Cal Investments for the use of Suite 185 at the Goodyear Financial Center to continue to be used as a temporary library. Item C, approve special use zoning for the Palm Valley Church use at 431 North Litchfield Road, subject to stipulations. Item D, accept the dedication of 4 public utility and access easements and 1 water easement associated with the Palm Valley Crossing development located at Auto Drive and Litchfield Road. Item E is 2 parts. The first, adopt ordinance 09-1201, amending Chapter 11 of the Goodyear City Code by adding sections 11-1-27, disorderly conduct, 11-1-28, disorderly party, gathering event, 11-1-29, criminal trespass, 11-1-30, public urination or defecation, 11-1-31, making a false or misleading statement, 11-1-32, obstructing a law enforcement officer, 11-1-33, and interfering with police service dog as criminal offenses subject to prosecution, the imposition of criminal penalties, providing for separability and an effective date. E2, adopt Resolution 09-1352, declaring as a public record that certain document entitled Ordinance 09-1201, amending Chapter 11 of the Goodyear City Code, filed with the city clerk and providing for an effective date. Item F, adopt Resolution 09-1355, providing for the municipal provider to qualify the Goodyear Water Service Area ASA member service area of the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District under the Groundwater Replenishment Statute and providing for the municipal provider to pay an annual replenishment tax to be determined by Central Arizona Water Conservation District, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the municipal provider. F2, approve the execution of a new excess groundwater agreement with CAGRD, authorizing the city manager to execute the requisite documentation. Item G, accept the dedication of a drainage and public trail easement from Suncor Development Company and water line easements from Suncor Development Company and Tradecorp Bullard and McDowell SEC LLC for the Centerscape at Palm Valley Commercial Center located at the southeast corner of Bullard Avenue and McDowell Road.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone in the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Mayor, I have Roger Matlin would like to remove A, B, D, E, F, and G.
Say that again. Slower.
All items except for C.
All items except for C.
A, B, D, E, F, G.
Oh, but see. Roger, you're getting out of here. Doesn't want to take on church.
Okay, then we'll remove those, and anyone on council wish to remove item C from the agenda? Could I have a motion to approve item C?
So moved.
Second.
Don't need a roll call on that one, do we?
Let's see.
It's zoning.
It's not a,
All those in favor of approving item 7C signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 6-0. And I would add for the record, Councilmember Osborne is here. Okay, Mr. Matlin, would you like to come forward and express your concern about the other items?
Pay him after a while.
Good evening. For the record, Roger Matlin, Goodyear, Arizona. So do I just start off on the first item and go from there?
What is the time constraint here when you have more than one item? So make sure we agree with Roger, so there's no misunderstanding.
I think it's at the discretion of the chair, isn't it?
It
City
used to
attorney?
be,
The mayor controls, the chair controls the public comment.
okay,
The code It still provides that when you pull it from consent, you do consider them individually, so there'll need to be individual votes.
I understand that. Okay, then
This set of precedent?
why don't we, 10 minutes maximum on all of them, if you need that much time. Obviously, 3 minutes per item, but since you're talking 6 or 7, 10 minutes overall. Okay? Okay. You're on.
Okay. Well, item A, having to do with the reappointment. And since this was an issue brought up at the last council meeting,
Roger, could you please speak up? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
pardon me, item A, having to do with the reappointment of planning and zoning commission members. I was curious to know, do you have resumes and backgrounds and the current employers of all these individuals, since that was apparently a key critical item for Councilmember Antoniak on anyone that's on a board or a commission. And I also want to know, are all of these members Goodyear residents?
To my knowledge.
That's it for item A, so fire away.
No, go ahead. Keep going. We'll answer them all.
Okay.
You got 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. I'm not quite sure if that is actually, Rourke, I don't think that's actually legal in the state of Arizona.
The mayor controls the decorum in the meeting, so we'll follow what the mayor dictates.
Oh, okay. Oh. Okay, well then, item B, the approval to renew the lease agreement. And does the city of Goodyear or any of the council members have a relationship with Tri-Cal Investments?
City staff or city council, did you say?
Yes.
Okay.
As well as what are the terms of the lease? What is the lease rate? The dates of the lease? Let's see, item C was not included. Item D. With regard to the dedication of easements in Palm Valley Crossing development, I want to know what is currently in the location of these easements. There's some description here in the executive summary. It's not very clear what exactly is currently there, as well as who exactly are the current owners of the easement, because it refers to dedicated by various property owners along Auto Drive. I just want to know basically who are the recipients of this? Is it the city? And then who is legally required to maintain the easements and maintain the roadway after this? Is it Suncor Development? Is it the city of Goodyear? Is it these other property owners? And exactly who are those property owners? Item E. This one, and first, so you're aware, I strongly support the police department here in Goodyear. I think they do an outstanding job. I think Chief Brown does an outstanding job, as well as everyone on the staff. So with regard to the police department, my question had to do with why is this being initiated so suddenly? Is this because we're having more criminal problems here in Goodyear, as noted by the gentleman earlier? Is this a serious problem that we're going to have to be worrying about throughout the city? And how serious has it become? Because these are kind of an interesting group of items. And I just wanted to know, are we having issues like public urination spreading throughout the city of Goodyear because the city is having so many financial troubles? Item number F. Excess groundwater agreement. And I'll be honest, I'm not entirely familiar with this, so I was hoping for some kind of presentation and an explanation of what this agreement exactly covers, who the parties are involved, and it notes a municipal provider to pay an annual replenishment tax to be determined by Central Arizona Water Conservation District. Who exactly is determined to be the municipal provider that's paying that tax, and is that tax then forwarded on to the residents or the taxpayers of Goodyear? So basically, who's paying that, and when will that begin? In addition, is there an issue with the groundwater supply, or is this just a renewal of an agreement that is expiring? Don't look so excited, Rob.
Trust me, I won't.
Okay. Item number G.
It's a letter.
Actually, just to be nice, I'll drop G. Since I'm sure that Joe has looked deeply into this since he lives in Palm Valley and does so much for the residents of Palm Valley. So that would be it for these items.
Okay, we'll respond to those right away. If you'd like to take a seat, you're welcome. Okay, the first one is Harvey Krause. It's on the P&Z, and the question is, Harvey, are these 4 people residents of Goodyear?
And their application. Mayor, council, yes, they are required to be residents of the city of Goodyear.
But they are residents?
They are residents of
Okay.
the city of Goodyear.
And did they go through an application process?
Yes. Yes. Sean lives in Palm Valley, Pamelia Gardens, I believe, or Lakes. Sherry Larentano lives in Estrella Mountain Ranch, and Bob Williams and Leslie Miller live in Pebble Creek. And they're, as he asked about employment, Bob and Leslie are retired, Sean works for the Department of Revenue with the state, and Sherry is an attorney in private practice.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
if I
sir.
could just ask the rest of the staff to come forward, since we're going to go through this, to save time,
Sure.
please, that have the responsibilities here. Since
Second
this-
one is Mark Flynn, and that's the lease agreement on the library. And Mark, the question there is there any relationship between Tri-Cal and the council staff?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Okay, and is the lease agreement a proprietary, or could the gentleman have access to that?
No, he
It was
can't.
attached to the agenda, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
then he has access to the
There
lease.
is a copy of it available, yes.
Okay, thank you. On number D, or letter D, dedication of easements, and those are the 4 public utility and access easements. Let's see, who is the person on that one? Is that
It's
Harvey
me.
again? Linda? Brett?
I don't know if we can-
Okay, Linda Beals, I'm on C. Stand by.
If we could bring up, I think Elmo.
Okay?
Thank you. The easements go along.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, this was in the packet also.
It's all right. That's-
Okay. The easements run along Auto Drive. They are various, most of them, although they are right here and right here. These are the public utility and access easements. There are a number of property owners involved, and the water easement is located over in this area. These were oversights, I believe, as the project was being built out and Suncor was working with the various property owners. And it's something we've been working with Suncor to just kind of clean up, since there are utilities out in that area and we wanted to make sure that we had legal access to them. One of the requests was the property owners. They include Palm Valley, Epic Holding 3, Goodyear, Arizona Commerce Park, PAD Land LLC, McCade LLC, and SBV Anthem LLC. The city will be responsible for maintaining anything that we do with regard to the utility easements, or we authorize through our different franchise agreements and so forth, and the same with the water easement. The landscaping will continue to be maintained through the property owners and Suncor.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Could you explain, is that the norm?
Yeah, that's typical.
That's all I want to know.
Okay, is this, are these easements covering bare land now, or is it actually?
No, there's developments out there. Some of them include, there's you can kind of see some of the buildings. This is where Cherry's Design and Consign is. There's an office condo complex. Well, we already have that one, actually. There's no development on this corner. I'm thinking this one, I don't remember the facility that's there. But several of them do have developments in place right now.
Okay, thank you. That was one of his questions. Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move to the criminal offenses on item E. Chief Brown, the question there is, why is this an issue now?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. And that's a fair question. In looking at our codes on a periodic basis, we need to do updates on them. And this has actually been a process that's been going on for about 6 months, working with our assistant city attorney on updating some of these and creating new ones that help our officers out there do a better job. So this is a long-term process. It is a regular process on something we would look at and try to update to make sure that we have things in place before they become a problem issue for us.
Just a question, is this similar to other cities? This is the same type of process other cities go through with their ordinances?
I believe it is, yes.
Thank you. Dave Iwanski, excess water, groundwater agreement. Can you summarize it for us, Dave, and then a little short presentation, and then about who pays that tax?
I'll be happy to, Mayor. Just briefly, as a condition for the city to receive its redesignation of assured water supply, one of those provisions is that the city be a member of the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District. Our current Excess water agreement is for 10,000 acre feet. Last year, we pumped 8,088 acre feet, so you can see we're approaching that ceiling. So statute requires a new excess water agreement be executed. The two questions that the gentleman asked with regard to municipal provider, the city of Goodyear is the municipal provider. We do pay that all the replenishment obligations on behalf of both our customers, our ratepayers, and our taxpayers. Those obligations were included in the water and sewer rate study and are accounted for. The second question he asked is there a problem with the groundwater supply? Short answer is no. The Arizona Department of Water Resources has determined that the city of Goodyear has both the legal availability and the physical availability for the new amount of 15,940 acre feet in the new agreement. The resolution is required by statute.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other citizens who have submitted a card? Would anyone on council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Could I have a motion to approve agenda items, consent agenda items
Mr. Mayor.
7?
We have to take Mr. Mayor, excuse me.
We have to do each one. We do?
You need to vote on them individually now that they've been pulled off of consent.
I'll just run down those.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve item 7A as read by the clerk.
Second.
I have a motion, Councilmember Antoniak, and a second from Councilmember Pizzillo. Roll call vote, please. No, I don't need a roll. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Opposed, the ayes have it, 6-0.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve item 7B as read by the clerk.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Antoniak, second from Councilmember Pizzillo. All those in favor signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 6-0.
Mr.
Now
Ma-
move to D.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt item 7D as read by the clerk.
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Pizzillo. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Ayes have it, 6-0.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance 09-1201 as read by the clerk.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Antoniak, second from Councilmember Pizzillo. Need a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Lord,
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Aye.
Councilmember Antoniak.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne. Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt item 7F, a resolution to approve new excess
Wait,
groundwater.
excuse me, number 2.
Oh,
E2.
sorry. Number 2.
E2.
Resolution.
See it there?
Yep, I apologize. I move that we adopt resolution 09-1352 as read by the clerk.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Pizzillo. Again, roll call vote.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Aye.
Councilmember Antoniak.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne. Aye. Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve item 7F, adopting resolution 09-1355 as read by the clerk.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Pizzillo. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Antoniak.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne. Aye. Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the execution of a new excess groundwater agreement with CAGRD authorizing the city manager to execute the requisite documentation.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Pizzillo. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Opposed, the ayes have it, 6-0.
Lastly, Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt item 7G as read by the clerk.
Motion
Second.
from Councilmember Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Pizzillo. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it, 6-0. Okay, thank you. We'll move to business part of our agenda, and we'll start with the annual report. Larry Lang.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I would like to introduce Chuck Goodmiller. Chuck is a partner with the audit firm of Henry & Horn and was a partner on this engagement, and he will go over the audit with you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for having me. As Larry said, my name is Chuck Goodmiller. I'm a partner with Henry & Horn. We're a CPA firm, and we did the annual audit for the year ended June 30th, 2009. I don't want to take up too much time. I just want to give a couple of highlights. The audit and the financial statements were presented to the audit committee, and I just want to let you know that when we performed the audit, the staff was very cooperative. It was a successful audit, a timely audit. As you can see, the audit is completed before Christmas, and that's always a good thing. The year just ended in June. There's a lot of work that goes into this packet. Henry and Horn has 3 reports that are in your audit packet. Our report over the financial statements is a clean opinion. It means it's, in our opinion, as a CPA firm, these financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We have 2 other reports. One report is over compliance with laws and regulations in accordance with government auditing standards. We had no significant findings to be reported. And finally, we did a single audit in accordance with the requirements of OMB A133, which basically means that when your expenditures of federal awards and grants exceed $500,000, it's required that we do that. And we had no significant findings or question costs when it came to that audit. I'll also point out that your comprehensive annual financial report from the prior year received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association. The current CAFR will be submitted, and I anticipate you will see that certificate once again. That is all I had. I just want to again reiterate that we presented this to the audit committee, and I think that y'all have good staff here. We didn't have any major adjustments or significant entries that we had to make to the books, and that's a real feather in your cap.
Can you identify the members of the audit committee for the record, please?
I can. Councilperson Osborne, Councilperson Lord, Councilperson Antoniak, and then there are staff members as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Opportunity for the public now to comment on this report.
Mayor, I have one speaker, Roger Matlin.
Okay. Roger.
Good evening. Roger Matlin, Goodyear, Arizona. Okay. Well, I had a chance to read through this report and was very interested by it. I did have some questions about it in looking at prior year reports. There were some very significant differentiations in how the emergency funds for the city of Goodyear are calculated, and I want to know whether or not it was determined, do we have an emergency fund still for the city of Goodyear? It's been calculated on a different basis year after year since at least 2007. The other question, is this the final report? Because there were a couple of errors in the report that I came across during a review, and just wanted to know, I guess, gentleman, I think it's Goodmiller, answered some of those questions, because obviously I know who was reviewing the report, but the fact that some of these items were missed kind of caught me off guard. And I bring this up simply because I did once work for one of the largest, most respected accounting firms in the United States or in the world, and so I just took an opportunity to quickly review the report. And finally, I was only able to download the one report. So I know it was noted earlier with regard to access to some of the documentation. With some of the earlier agenda items, I was not able to download all of those off of the city website. In this case, I saw that I believe there were 4 reports. Only one of them was available, and that was the one that I did review. So if those questions were answered in other reports, I apologize, but the site didn't work. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if
Yes.
I just might comment, the city clerk typically downloads everything to the computer, but she also has copies in her office for any citizen who wants to review them.
Okay. All right, and we appreciate your finding a couple errors there and reporting them to us, so thank you very much for that. Could I have a motion, please, to approve the receipt of the audit report?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we receive the 2008-2009 annual audit from Henry and Horn.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Pizzillo. It's now open for council discussion. Mr. Pizzillo?
Just a couple questions for the city manager. Just a couple of things that kind of jumped out was I guess the unreserved fund balance went from, dropped 13.1, and the 29 million, 29.1 million that's in the unreserved right now. I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that 3.1 of that is the money that was used to balance this year's budget from the contingency. Is that correct? That's in the 29.1?
Yes, it is, Mr. Pizzillo.
Okay. Can you give me just a broad idea within the 26 million that's left? How much of that money would be contractually obligated, encumbered funds? Because usually come July 1, there's always things kind of in process. And any general fund liabilities, so I can get a kind of a general idea what's money kind of sitting in that general. You see where I'm kind of?
Yeah, certainly, Mr. Pizzillo, members of the City Council. And I'd be happy to do a yellow paper for the council on this to be precise with the numbers. But in round numbers, we have roughly 26 million in the reserves, and we had told you that we would be at 21 million. So we're about $4 to $5 million better off than we had anticipated, and we will do a yellow paper to you detailing the specifics of that. And I reported that to you a couple weeks ago. We did better last year than we had anticipated.
So we have roughly about 21 that's not committed to contractually, or?
Roughly 25 that's not committed.
Okay, so there's only another million that's,
Yes.
okay. Okay. That's good.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 6-0. We now have, we're moving to Madeira, and we're going to start with the Master Development Agreement. We'll have a vote on that resolution, and then we'll do the next two items. One is an ordinance, and the other is the minor amendment. And those will be handled together. Is that correct?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, so we'll start with the adopting a resolution for the Madeira Master Development Agreement. Harvey Krause.
Good evening, Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council, and the public. This evening, we have before you a master development agreement for Madeira, and this is one that has been discussed by the mayor and council previously. Just briefly, I'll give you the location for the benefit of the public. The property is approximately 2,300 acres, a little over 2,300 acres. It goes from the Chandler Heights road alignment to the north, south, down to Patterson Road alignment. The Waterman Wash runs along primarily along its east boundary, and on the west is 175th Avenue. The property is a mixed-use development is being proposed by Madeira, the developer Madeira, with residential, mostly residential, with a maximum of a little over 7,000 dwelling units and a maximum density of just under 3 units per acre. and commercial uses and public facility uses. Why are we doing a development agreement? The main reason is this property, this over 2,300 acres, lacks basic infrastructure and public safety facilities, and the city does not have the resources to provide those facilities and services at this time. So to meet the demands created by the development proposal, the city has negotiated a development agreement with the master developer to provide the needed facilities, water and wastewater, reclaimed water, roads, police, fire, and they will fund those facilities that's needed to support the development, as well as the O&M, the operation and maintenance costs, until the revenues generated by this development are sufficient to pay the operating costs. I think it's important to note that the staff would not be recommending approval of this final PAD for Madeira if it was not for this development agreement. It's important to note that. There's a stipulation on the final PAD that requires the developer to enter into a master development agreement with the city prior to approval of the final PAD, and that's why the master development agreement is being considered prior to the general plan amendment and the zoning. The staff is now satisfied with the agreement, and the developer has addressed staff's concerns. We had a work session with council on November 9th where we discussed in detail the major business points. I'll just very briefly highlight 5 of those business points for the benefit of the public. The water, wastewater, and reclaimed water infrastructure is going to be provided by the developer, and they will subsidize the O&M cost of that infrastructure until the revenues generated by those systems are equal to the operation and maintenance costs. The developer will also provide a letter of credit to guarantee the payment of that subsidy. Second, water resources. The developer is proposing to use potable water from existing ag wells, retrofit those ag wells for potable water use. They provided studies to the staff that there is adequate water for the development. However, the existing studies don't confirm that the supply of water is of good enough quality in the future without significant water treatment. So that is a concern of staff. We've added a stipulation that prior to subdivision approval, prior to any first subdivision approved by the city, they must demonstrate that there is a long-term good quality water source on site for Madeira. And if they cannot do that, then they'll have to provide secure off-site water source to provide water for the development. Transportation, the developer must dedicate and construct all the roadways to support the development within the development as well as adjacent to the development. Also, there's a provision that they must widen Rainbow Valley Road in the future to accommodate the growth or construct an acceptable alternative roadway. Also provide one all-weather crossing over the Waterman Wash. Under the area of public safety facilities, the developer must construct any temporary or permanent facilities per the development schedule prepared by the public safety staff, police and fire, and that schedule is part of the development agreement as Exhibit C in your packet. Once again, they must subsidize all O&M costs for police and fire services until their self-sufficiency, until the revenues generated in the development pay the costs for police and fire. Fifth, lastly, regional infrastructure. Several items within the development are of a regional nature, and the developer will upfront those costs. Typically, the developer is reimbursed through development fees. The city does not have a mechanism at this time to reimburse the developer from development fees, since our development fee structure does not cover this area. And so within the development agreement, the developer acknowledges and consents there is a risk that they may not receive reimbursement for this regional infrastructure, and that's in the development agreement. So those are the major points within the development agreement I wanted to highlight. I also wanted to give credit and acknowledge Sarah Chilton for all her work on the development agreement. She did the lion's share of the legal work and did an excellent job. And the developer is represented, I believe, by Mr. Paul Gilbert, and Dustin Jones are here this evening, can probably want to make some comments or answer any specific questions. And I'm also available to answer any questions. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Opportunity now for the applicant to speak.
For your record, my name is Paul Gilbert, 4800 North Scottsdale Road. Harvey did a magnificent job of presentation, and I'm pleased to tell you I have nothing further to add. I do the development agreement, Dustin does the zoning. So,
thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? Okay.
Yes, Mayor. I do have one speaker, Roger Matlin.
this is getting old. He's putting our kids through college.
Roger Matlin, Goodyear, Arizona. As the gentleman noted, putting through college, yes. I would like the council to make sure it does its job for the residents of Goodyear. With regard to this project, my primary comment had to do with, and actually I think most of them were answered, about water.
You're going to have to lower that mic a little
okay,
bit to
so,
your mouth.
water was taken care of.
It leans down, Roger. If you grab the top of it, it'll point down.
That issue was covered. The primary question is having to do with the subsidy of the police and fire. What exactly does subsidy mean? Does that mean they are paying it in full? I think we heard the same term in the Amaranth development, and of course the developer went bankrupt and bailed out the city, which cost taxpayers millions of dollars. So is the subsidy an entire payment of those costs until the project can provide enough revenue? And I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that is tax revenue generated by the project that will pay for police and fire in its entirety.
Okay, thank you. We can answer that question now, I think.
And just my one other question is, when is this project going to happen?
Mr. Massey.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the second question I think the developer will have to answer. The first question is that the subsidy is to cover the full cost of fire and police O&M. It is different than the Amaranth development agreement, as Mr. Krause indicated. The developer is required to post a letter of credit that can be drawn upon by the city in the case of a default on the part of the developer's obligation, and the term of that letter of credit would be 3 years worth of the anticipated operations and maintenance expenses. So that's those are the protections built into this development agreement for the city.
We'll answer the second, when will the development start? At 9 o'clock, 2 years from now. No, I'm just kidding, Mayor. This project will come to fruition when the market is ready. I might add that we have easily 2 years' worth of work, pre-work to do before we even open our doors to the public and commence marketing. So that's a difficult question to answer with precision, but it will be determined primarily by the market and by how fast we can do the pre-work that will be necessary to create the infrastructure so it could start.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, could I ask the clerk to read the resolution by title only, please?
Adopt Resolution 09-1353, approving and adopting the Madeira Master Development Agreement with Madeira Maricopa LLC, Rainbow One LLC, and CNS Rainbow LLC relating to the development of approximately 2,363 acres of land generally located south of Chandler Heights Road to the Patterson Road alignment and between Waterman Wash on the east and 175th Avenue on the west, authorizing and directing the city manager to execute the Madeira Master Development Agreement on behalf of the City of Goodyear, authorizing and directing the city manager and city staff to take all actions necessary to carry out the intent of resolution and the Madeira Master Development Agreement, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion on the resolution?
I move we adopt Resolution 09-1353 as read by the city clerk.
Second. Motion from Vice Mayor Lord and a second from Councilmember Cavalier. It's open for council discussion.
I have a question.
Yes. Councilmember Osborne.
This may be for you, Rourke. Pertaining to this development agreement, help me understand a little bit about the letter of credit, because in the sections relating to wastewater operating, reclaimed water infrastructure, fire facilities, all of these sections have almost identical paragraphs regarding this letter of credit and how we would draw upon it if there was to be an occurrence. What I don't really understand is if everything went belly up and all of these came into play at once, then how would we decide that there was enough in this letter of credit to take care of every one of those sections?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the concept behind the letter of credit is you take the annual estimated operating expenses for the water, the wastewater, the fire, the police, the O&M, and the developer is responsible for posting a letter of credit sufficient to cover those estimated operating expenses for a 3-year period. Now, that there's some work inherent to the city to estimate in good faith what those operating expenses are going to be, and that's how you get to the figure of what that letter of credit must be posted by the developer. Now, the risk, of course, you said if the developer were to go out of business or not fulfill his obligations is the city only has coverage for that of the 3-year period. So that's the risk the city's undertaking, that in the event of a default on the part of the developer, we're going to have a letter of credit proceeds to cover roughly 3 years of our estimated operating expenses for those 4 areas for that development. So that's the risk that the city has undertaken. The city, through the development agreement, has tried to mitigate that risk by having an unrestricted letter of credit posted that we can call in the event of a default on the part of the developer to at least try to mitigate some of our risk in those 4 areas.
I guess I'll make my comment now. First of all, thank you to the developer and to staff. I know that this has been a long, drawn-out, tedious undertaking by both parties, and I know that you've come to consensus, and I really appreciate that. You're a developer that has land, and you have every right to build on that land.
Joanne, is your microphone on?
Hello? Hello? Okay. Do I have to say that again? Did you hear me? We did. Okay. And so, I appreciate that. I know you've worked hard, and I think I stated to you a couple weeks ago that I was not trying to hold a fire to you for what has happened to us in previous times, montage. And I hope you understand that. However, this state is almost 100 years old, and since that point, we've had growth. We've had sporadic growth, we've had intense growth, and we've had not so smart of growth. Arizona cannot continue to grow that way. We are in a different time, we are in a different place. And I'm not willing to continue on that same kind of growth of Arizona. I believe that you've done everything possible as a developer to convince us that this will work, and I give you every credit for that. But I do not feel that we are in the position of being able to take that risk And since that is my job to watch over the city and our citizens' money, I do not feel that I can agree to this at this time. You know, a few weeks ago, we saw Australia Mountain Ranch coming forward to us, coming again, and it was only a preliminary PAD. I did not have as much heartburn about that because I knew this wasn't going to a final PAD, and that's what you guys are asking for 2 more pages down. So I'm stating it now that I cannot agree to this. I probably will be on my own, but at some point in this state, we have to have political will, and that is what I'm doing. So I will be voting against it.
Okay, thank you. Further comments?
Just to follow up on Joanne's Rourke, on the mitigation of the 3 years, what type of, I guess it's kind of hard for you to kind of estimate that kind of looking forward on where that development would be, say in the 2nd or the 3rd year or the 4th year, and say something goes wrong. What kind of, I guess, demand for services? You know, you got 3 years worth of operating basically there. What kind of demand for services may happen at that point in time, or, because of the distance where this is located? What kind of stress may it put on the public safety? What kind of stress may it put on our system? Because I assume at that point in time, the water infrastructure is in place, the wastewater infrastructure is in place, so now you're looking at more operations. I assume we can probably recover some of that cost through rate structures and whatever for water and sewer. But I'm not sure, with 3 years in there, once you have that in place, how do we cover that, those type of shortfalls if that would happen? And I know we're talking hypotheticals here, and I understand that. But.
Mr. Pizzillo, members of the council, that's the unknowns that were trying to be captured in this development agreement. You don't know. You don't know what point you potentially could have a developer default. So you're balancing 100% protection from the city infinitum versus reasonable conditions imposed upon the developer. So it was that pressure point that we came down with the 3 years, because posting a letter of credit obviously has carrying costs for the developer. The city would like to have 100% protection, moving forward for an unknown number of years. 3 years was a reasonable negotiated point as far as the city felt that there was enough, at least staff level felt there's enough protections built in to at least try to move on at that point. Is 3 years enough? I can't sit here and say that it is, but at least you'll have 3 years worth of proceeds to try to get back on track. So I don't know if that answers. Without a crystal ball, you really can't answer the question. It's trying to project the unknowns.
Let me ask you this: the 3 years is based on a total of all of those areas: water, wastewater, and public safety, correct? So, say for example, you can through a rate structure get recovered the water and the wastewater rates. Does that give you more money freed up to cover any shortfalls in public safety, or do they go by categories?
Excuse me, can you restate the question?
Say, for example, through a rate information, if something goes where you can cover your costs for water, wastewater, et cetera. Now you have freed up a little more money on your letter of credit. Does that mean you can use that for public safety to cover it, since you may not need it for water and wastewater, because you can recover some of that with rates?
Well, I think what you're going to do is you're going to hit a point in time where you have a developer default, and you're going to be calling a letter of credit theoretically across the various 4 categories. So you're going to have a letter of credit for X amount of millions of dollars. I don't believe we're going to be restricted on how we can apply those necessarily. I don't think you have to account for them and distribute them according to the percentage of your projected operating budget. Maybe we'll argue about that later with the developer, but in our view, you pull an unrestricted letter of credit and you apply it to your operating costs, whatever those costs may be. Didn't reference earlier that in addition to the letter of credit, we're also not obligated to issue any more building permits in the development or rezone or plats until the default is cured. So you've stopped development as well.
Yeah, the point I was trying to make is you may be able to free up more money to stretch past 3 years if you can get some of it recovered through the rates of the water and wastewater. That's what I was kind of getting at, if that's possible, that you can actually get it beyond 3 years if you can recover some of the other stuff with rates.
And I agree. I think that's some of the ideas that's captured, and you have that 3-year cushion to let you redeploy, redistribute your assets down there.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Yeah, I just want to say this in defense of the developer and the staff. Years ago, we went through something that was quite traumatic with the King Ranch, not the King Ranch, with Stray Mountain Ranch, and that was in the late 80s. Most of the staff that's working on this, at least some of the staff working on it, was there then. And a short period of time that was worked okay, and it was because there were enough homes and enough infrastructure that was put into place, and therefore we were able to pick up the pieces and move Estrella Ranch on forward, because there was a questionable time in there where maybe that wasn't going to go, but there were enough homes built in at that time, and there was enough money that had already been put in the infrastructure. Now, my feeling about this developer is that they do have the resources to put enough infrastructure in and to develop enough and sell enough homes in 3 years. They won't start this process until they know that that will be a success. I'm pretty certain of that. And that within 3 years, there will be enough built into that development that if something should happen to that development company, that the city would be able to pick up with another company or whoever, the government or whoever takes it over. But it will go on. And that's the assurance we need, is that the infrastructure and that development is far enough along that we can still pick it up and go forward. Historically, that happened there. It didn't, however, down south, because it really never got off the ground. But with this one, I think you have enough resources behind it, and I have trust in this group that they can pull this off. And I will be voting for it.
Vice Mayor Lord.
Yes, I'd like to just repeat once more what Harvey said. Sarah Chilton, you did a great job on this development agreement. And to the rest of the council, you know, when we got elected, we weren't given a crystal ball. So you have to sort of analyze where you want your city to go, what you think the future is, how you want to develop the commercial. So, you know, that's what our job is to do. It's to move the city forward and not backwards. So I appreciate the staff's time, and I appreciate the developer in your negotiations with staff, and I think you used a lot of common sense and a lot of reassuring for the public that we're somewhat more protected than we were at the last large development agreement. So once again, thank you.
Okay, nothing?
Nope.
Just a last comment, if I could. I do want to compliment both the staff and the developer. This has been a very arduous, lengthy, time-consuming process, and from John Fishbach on down, he's had many people involved in this to make it happen. Sometimes we take for granted our developers, and I just want to say that I think you really did an outstanding job here. You had to be patient. You didn't get everything you wanted, and but I do believe, in view of this being a part of the general plan, the fact that we have asked you to do many things and you've agreed to do those, and the fact that you committed a lot of money to this property, you have a constitutional right to develop this, and I wouldn't want to face you in court on that issue. So. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Osborne?
Nay.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Antoniak?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 5-1.
Okay, next two items are also related to Madeira, and Steve Crutchia will present. We'll start with a public hearing, and then we'll take the, he'll do both subjects, and then one is a minor amendment to the general plan, and the other is a change of the ordinance. That's on zoning, as I recall. And, but we'll take the vote separately. Okay? Open the public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. This is a PAD rezoning and a general plan amendment for Madeira. As shown here on the map that Harvey put up, these are the boundaries for Madeira. Property is mostly an agricultural production, a dairy here, undeveloped south of Hunt Road. The first application, a minor general plan amendment, that follows upon a major general plan amendment that was approved by the City Council in February 2007. With this amendment, this minor amendment, there are no significant changes to the land uses established with the major amendment. This amendment is mostly a refinement of the land uses conducted by the applicant as they worked on their PAD. And this is the PAD proposal for Madeira. 7,004 residential units at 2.96 dwelling units per acre. It will have a range of residential densities from apartments to estate lots. Commercial core right here at Long Riggs Road, 58 acres proposed there. Residential densities are highest around the core, and then they lessen as you radiate out. 3 elementary school sites proposed here, here, and here. Locations discussed with the school districts. These were the optimum locations that they desired for Madeira. Open space, 356 acres. That does include the area within Waterman Wash here, which will remain in a natural state. Madeira Wash here, that'll be more of a improved area, one of the main open space areas within Madeira. You'll have a linear park around the main collectors along with scattered pocket parks and community parks. Staff and the Planning Commission, we did review both items, the minor general plan amendment, the rezoning. We are recommending approval of both items, and also the rezone will be subject to the stipulations that are found in the rezoning ordinance. With that, Mr. Mayor, staff is available for questions.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the applicant?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Dustin Jones, 2525 East Camelback Road. We were here before you a couple weeks ago, and I gave you a presentation on the development plan for this PAD and for the general plan amendment. We also had discussions on the development agreement, which you've just approved. If you don't have any questions, I can dispense with my presentation, or you can have me give presentations, and I can also address your questions.
Why don't we respond to questions? Okay, opportunity now for the public. Anybody from the public wish to speak?
Mayor Kavanaugh, Roger Matlin.
Roger Matlin, Goodyear, Arizona. I will keep this relatively short because they've done a very good job of explaining most of the questions that I had in regard to some of these other items. First, I do remain concerned that if you think this is a constitutional item, it is not. Maybe you need to consult with better counsel. Having been
that was my opinion, Mr. Matlin.
Having been a lender for 20 years and underwritten $25 billion of loans, none of which have ever gone bad, it confuses me that this would be such an issue. This really comes down to the residents of Goodyear, Arizona, and the future of Goodyear, Arizona. I do appreciate the fact that the developer is putting up this letter of credit, and I think that is a very honorable thing to do. I hope that it will be a larger letter of credit. And then finally, to Councilmember Osborne, thank you for standing up and showing that you are a true council member for everyone, every taxpayer, every business here in Goodyear. I sincerely appreciate that, whether or not that means anything to you, but I think that was a very honorable thing to do. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. No other comments from the public? Close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the resolution approving a minor amendment to the general plan.
Adopt Resolution 09-1354, approving a minor amendment to the General Plan 2003-2013 to amend the planned land uses on 2,363 acres generally located between Chandler Heights Road to the north and Patterson Road to the south, and between Waterman Wash to the east and 175th Avenue to the west, amending the rural residential, low-density residential, low-medium-density residential, medium-high-density residential, public, quasi-public, open space, and community commercial general plan land uses for a master development known as Madeira and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the minor amendment resolution?
I move we adopt Resolution 09-1354 as read by the city clerk.
Second.
Motion from Vice Mayor Lord and second from Councilmember Antoniak. It's open for council discussion.
Just a comment that I don't have a problem with this general plan amendment because this is still the future plan of Goodyear, and there's nothing wrong with this change, and so I will be supportive of the minor amendment.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Antoniak?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to ask the clerk to read the ordinance by title only, and that refers to the zoning.
Adopt Ordinance 09-1203, providing for the rezoning of 2,363 acres from the agricultural and agricultural urban zoning districts to the final planned area development zoning district to facilitate the development of a mixed-use project known as Madeira, generally located between Chandler Heights Road to the north and Patterson Road to the south, and between Waterman Wash to the east and 175th Avenue to the west, adopting supplementary zoning map number 07-016 to provide for the change in zoning, providing separability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, could I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt the ordinance as read by the clerk.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Antoniak and a second from Councilmember Pizzillo. It's open for discussion. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Antoniak?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Nay.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 5-1.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to consider approving 27 appointments to the Citizen Ad Hoc Budget Committee as recommended by a subcommittee of the City Council. John Fischbach.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, on November 9th, the Council adopted Resolution 9-1347, authorizing the formation of a Citizen Budget Committee. The purpose of the Budget Committee is to become informed about city services, programs, and funding, and to provide input on services, program priorities, and identify potential cost savings, and to identify new revenue sources. The subcommittee worked very diligently. The subcommittee consisted of Councilmember Osborne, Councilmember Pizzillo, and Councilmember Cavalier. And the subcommittee is recommending a committee of 27 citizens, and I'll just quickly read the names for the benefit of the public. Kevin Bates, Leanne Black, Howard Broadbeck, Lulit Clow, Marvin Fair, Gary Gelzer, Anthony Girakos, Rain Gray, Barry Hamp, Greg Hansen, Joshua Hong, D. Lynn Eidelman, Charles Kagan, Michael Kayak, Art Lewis, Terry Lushatkis, Scott Mikes, Evelyn Nelson, Alfred Osario, Josh Papworth, Larry Price, and Charles Rothaker. This is representative of...
Second page.
Second page. 5 more.
I prepared this. I'm sorry. Thank you. Joan Shields, Edwin Smith, Monica Stiegler, William Stipp, and Catherine Wallinger. Thank you very much. This is a very representative of the community with a broad cross-section throughout all of the neighborhood associations and the housing or the HOAs, and it is recommended for your approval at this time.
Okay,
And
thank you.
I don't know if Mr. Pizzillo, Cavalier, or Ms. Osborne have any comments they wish to make.
Okay, let me ask the public first. Any comments from the public?
Mayor, I have one speaker, Roger Matlin.
There he is.
Pardon me? Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the 27 appointments?
So moved.
Second.
A motion from Councilmember Osborne, a second from Councilmember Cavalier. It's now open for discussion, and the 3 members of the subcommittee are certainly welcome to express your views.
Go ahead, Joe.
I'd like to thank all who have applied. That was a very tough choice. I believe there was over 70 people, and it was a very difficult decision going through all those applications. What we really wanted to do was get a cross-section of the entire city to make sure that all the neighborhoods, or as many neighborhoods as we could, were representative. And again, I want to thank all those who applied, but it was a tough decision because of the number that would apply. Also, remind everybody it is a public meeting, so everybody, once these things get scheduled, can attend. So with that said, just pass it down.
Okay, we'll get to Councilmember Antoniak.
Oh, there's not much else to add to that. You know, I'm very proud of our citizens for stepping up. I think we have a great, diverse group, and I'm looking forward to their suggestions.
Thank you. Councilmember Cavalier.
I think that's been said.
Okay, Councilmember Antoniak, anything further?
No, I just
Vice
appreciate
Mayor?
the work.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, may I add one comment? The meetings are going to be certainly public meetings. They're going to be held here, and they're going to be streamed so people can watch it on the internet.
Great.
Oh, that's good.
Great idea.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, 6-0. Comments from the council on current events to the public?
Yes.
Vice Mayor. No, Vice Mayor
Oh,
first.
Vice Mayor, I'm looking at him. Oh, okay.
You're the vice mayor, remember?
I'm so glad you reminded me. Thank you. Actually, I just want to wish the staff and public happy holidays, a Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, and that everybody comes back to the next council member healthy and safe. Thank you.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Yes, I just want to report that we, as you recall, last week we had the people from the county come to us and ask for the us to approve or go to CDAC and approve the ask for approval of CDAC for the $800,000 for infrastructure development and rehabilitation of the La Jolla apartment area on what's that on Zanbier? Yeah. Anyway, that was approved Wednesday night. In fact, it was approved unanimously by the entire membership of CDAC, and that will be on track.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a Happy New Year. I missed my prayer tonight, so I'll be ready to go January 1st. I was making money for Goodyear.
Yeah, I just wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I know it's been a tough year, and so hopefully 2010 looks up for us. And those of you that are traveling, please travel safe, and you'll be in my thoughts and my family's prayers as you enjoy the holidays and enjoy an extra couple of days off at the suggestion of your city manager. And if you haven't thanked him, make sure you write him a note and say thanks.
Councilmember Pizzillo.
Again, happy holidays. I thought it was great. What was it, the other day we were at the event there for the city awards ceremonies, and it was nice to see some of the people there and all the awards that were given. So again, tip of the hat for the staff for the event. It was streamlined. Everybody had a good time, and again, I want to thank you. But be careful out there on the roads during this holiday season. Everybody knows it gets a little crazy out there, so please be safe, and I hope to see you all next year. Thank you.
It's been a tough year, but certainly now it's ending up very well, and happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to everybody. You certainly deserve it. Mr. Fischbach.
All I have to say, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, is Merry Christmas to everyone and their families.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions of staff by council? Okay, seeing none, before I adjourn, we're going into an exec session, and there's no action that will result from it that I can, okay? So if you don't want to stick around, no reason to. This meeting is adjourned.